Consistency is king. There's no way around it. You got to do the work every day. It's really important. And so today we're going to be talking about consistency and dedication and making sure we're doing the work we need to do to actually be good runners. So as endurance athletes, and this is true for runners, triathletes, swimmers, anything, as endurance athletes, the most important aspect of getting better is doing the work consistently. It doesn't really do us a ton of good to really crush a workout and work really hard and then screw off for 3 or 4 days and then come back and have another hard workout that leaves us barely able to walk. Like, that's not going to make us a lot better over the long run, or even really in the short term. But consistently getting in the work, developing that aerobic engine, developing the capillary beds, developing the mitochondria so we're better able to generate more fuel from fat reserves, being able to buffer our blood pH, all the bits and pieces that come from consistent training. That's really important for being an endurance athlete. And you got to do it if you want to get better. I've met a lot of runners and triathletes over the years. They're like, oh yeah, I want to be better. I want to go run X time, or I want to run X race. But when push comes to shove, they skip their workouts. They don't do the work. And fundamentally, the work is what we do. Race day is just what we get to do when we're done. At that point, the work is done. And there's some of us, a lot of us, that, we kind of live for race day. It's the part we really enjoy. But in the grand scheme of things, the majority of our time doing our sport is spent in training. We don't spend the majority of our time in competition. It's not like being, in the men's basketball league at the Y, where you go in a couple times a week during your lunch break and play basketball with the guys. That's not what we do as endurance athletes. We spend most of our time training, and then every now and again we get to compete. And so there are two things that are kind of important to kind of keep in mind. Is one, that training is the important part. That's what we really do. And so if you don't like actually training, you're probably in the wrong sport. And the second one is enjoying race day is important if you want to race. You don't have to race. There are plenty of runners and multi-sport athletes that they just consistently train and they don't actually race. They might go to a race every now and again, go run it, swim it, whatever, but they don't race. They're not necessarily out for PRs and time. They're not out to time trial or to place. They're just there to be a part of the event. They want to go. They want to have a good time. They want to finish, and that's fine too. But I would definitely strongly encourage everyone to kind of take a look inside and make sure you're not one of those folks that thrives and is completely driven on the need to compete and to be successful competing, because that's just not really mentally healthy. It can get you to a tough spot, especially as we start getting older and slowing down. We're not as fast as we used to be. We get inside our own head, and especially if you're not consistently training, you're going to see a steep decline in performance output if your identity as an athlete or as a person is completely tied up in those finishing times and those finishing places. It's just not really a good place to be. But consistently getting the work in, that's what we actually do. And sometimes you need to take a step back and, maybe not train per se, but just go consistently, go run, swim, bike, whatever your chosen endurance mode is of choice, and just go play. Get back in touch with the roots of why you fell in love with it to begin with. There's not too many of us that are just naturally gifted athletes that happen to fall into a race and crush the competition and got that super high off of winning, and that's the only thing that motivates us. Even most of the fairly competitive people in the world, really competitive people in the world, like they still fundamentally have to like doing it. And so you gotta, sometimes you need to take a step back and kind of remember why you like doing it. I've met plenty of people over the years that burned out because they were super intent on the whole competitive thing. Of course, my computer's running low on battery now. There we go. But get back in love with training, and that'll help. If you love training, if you like training, and go a long way towards keeping you consistently getting up in the morning and going to do it. And there's a couple things you can do this. You can get a group of training buddies. That's the most common solution, because that way it makes it more of a social event. And by making it more of a social event, like it's more than just going and doing exercise. One, if you know you're prone to giving into peer pressure, you'll actually show up and do the work. It can be a useful trick. If you know you're prone to giving into peer pressure and you know it, you might as well use it. Now, don't go too far off the deep end and let it pull you along to running harder than you should be and getting hurt, and et cetera, et cetera. But you can make use of it if that's what you need to help get you out the door to go do it. Just have some training buddies, and it can make the workouts go a little faster, and you get a little more out of them. It makes them a little more fun. But yeah, so get some training buddies. The second one is build it into a habit, into a routine. So it's part of just your daily routine. It's what you do every day. Last year when I was at a fitness convention, I remember going to a talk by Lenny Kravitz, not the singer, the exercise physiologist from the University of New Mexico. And I forgot who he stole it from, but he had a saying he had stolen from somebody that was, you only have to exercise on the days you eat. And since we got to eat every day, therefore we got to exercise every day. So we can, if you're not necessarily a social runner or multi-sport athlete, endurance athlete, if you're not a social athlete, what you can do is just make it part of your habit. You get up in the morning, you go get your workout in, come home, you get ready for the day. Or you do it on your lunch break, or you do it immediately after work, or after you get the kids to bed. You make it a ritual, just part of your daily routine. And that really works for some people. Especially kind of the lone wolf kind of types. Not all endurance athletes are social animals. Historically, there's this fiction of the endurance athlete being the lone wolf kind of person. We all know that's not true in the grand scheme of things. But there are individuals that like working out by themselves. They don't want people jabbering at them the entire time they're working out. They like the solitude, especially if they have a lot of people at home and they're in a job that requires a lot of social interaction. Sometimes having that hour to yourself is kind of nice. So you build it in, just your normal daily routine, and that can help you be consistent with it too, because then it's not a ton of mental energy to go do it. It's like brushing your teeth before you go to bed. It's just what you do. And that can keep you consistent. And so by staying consistent, not only over the long run, no pun intended there, over the long run, we will get better over the long run. We're not necessarily worried about getting as fast as possible over the next week or over the next month, but over the next year, over the next 5 years, we're going to get in better shape and stay in better shape if we're consistent than if we're trying to go too hard and then taking breaks, not training, or getting hurt, not training, etc. And so by doing that, by being consistent about it, we're going to be in a better spot a year from now or 5 years from now than if we're not consistent. The other aspect, second aspect of being consistent, is it tends to make you a little more injury resilient. If you're prioritizing the consistency and I'm not necessarily saying to not work hard on the hard workouts, but if we're aware that we're going to get up and go run tomorrow, we're going to go do our bike workout tomorrow, we're going to go swim tomorrow, we're going to get our lift in, etc. And we're the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after that. One, we're going to plan our schedule to be able to do it. Two, we'll be a little less likely to kind of go off the deep end in a hard workout to the point where we're going to get hurt. And that higher total volume of training we're going to get over the course of a month or a year is going to result in more fitness and being more injury proof. Just because we're consistently working instead of working really hard, getting our body to, kind of shocking our body, and then letting it get deconditioned again, and then going back and hitting it hard again and letting it get deconditioned. And that's kind of a recipe for disaster. And a lot of us accidentally end up in that situation just because of life. It can happen. And, stuff hits the fan at work. You got, your spouse or your kids or your parents are sick, and or it's work's really busy, or life's busy, or summer vacation comes along. I mean, the holidays happen. It's a part of it, right? And accounting for that is necessary, and it does happen. But the more we can mitigate kind of those breaks from training, the better off we're going to be, because we'll be less likely to be kind of jumping back into training, working too hard, and getting hurt. So yeah, consistency. Being injury resilient is important for consistency, and being consistent helps with the injury prevention, because then we're staying in shape instead of getting deconditioned and trying to get back in shape and working really hard and then getting deconditioned. So yeah, that's kind of the big thing. And from a philosophical side of things, I see a lot of runners not able to do this, right? I see a lot of multi-sport athletes. Multi-sport folks tend to be a little better, and maybe that's because the training is a little more varied anyway, because you got the swim, you got the bike, you got the run. Normally you got some time in the weight room in there. So you're doing enough different things that you're never really getting bored. And so you're a little more likely to be engaged with the workout and excited to go do it. But if you don't commit to the training, to the process, to the consistency, you're not really probably going to end up where you want to be. I see this a lot with high school athletes. A lot of competitive runners are the ones I see this more with. For the more laid back folks that do it for the social side of things, or they're just part of their daily routine, but they're not necessarily like competitive racers, they tend to have less of this issue, just because they're out doing it for another reason. But the folks that want to be competitive and are driven and are hungry, when they're out of season and there's not a race like soon enough to kind of keep them, be like, oh yeah, I gotta get the training in, so I'm in shape. They're the ones, it seems like, in my experience, are the ones that are most likely to kind of fall off the consistency wagon. And you can always start over. I mean, that's never a big deal. But if you are one of those competitive folks and you like racing and trying to get a new PR and really trying to crush it, but especially if you're competitive, where you like racing other people, not necessarily just racing yourself, you gotta commit to the training too. It's not just about the racing, because you're not going to get to where you want to be without doing consistent training. You can't just wake up and be like, I don't feel like going to do the workout today. I just don't want to. Because if you don't want to, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get to do the stuff you think you want to do. And normally what that really means is that the training is not that high of a priority for you. And if training is not a high priority for you, winning is not going to be a high priority for you either. If you want to be competitive, you have to make consistently training a priority. So that's kind of a rambling way to kind of get around the whole consistency is king thing, but it really is. You got to be consistent. You got to consistently train. You got to get the miles in. You got to do the cross training. You got to sleep and eat and recover. There are some folks that I've known over the years that are able to run hard and party harder and just keep at it and not get hurt. But statistically speaking, most of us can't do that. Like Prefontaine, he could do it. He could party hard. He could train hard. and he had enough, like, he was just stubborn enough to kind of grind the wheels off of people. But he also wasn't racing in his 30s and his 40s and or 50s like most of us endurance athletes that, are adults with real jobs and real lives. He essentially died while he was college age, unfortunately. But yeah, like, even if you're a high school or college kid, like, you got to prioritize the recovery. You got consistently training is important. And if you don't, you're not going to get to where you want to be. So until next time, train smart. Hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so you don't miss any more videos. And we'll catch you next week. Follow along on the training vlog. We're starting to feel like we're getting into shape, and that's going to be kind of fun. We got the 4th of July race coming up, and then every week we got more of these training talks and demos coming out as well. So until next time, train smart.